Good evening and welcome in the Sports Zone. March Madness is wrapping up. Our Final Four is set. It's Florida, it's Auburn, it's Duke, and it's Houston. And here to talk about it with me today, and all of March Madness in general, is Ian Cropper and Julian Lofgren. Ian, I'll start with you. What have you thought about the tournament so far?
Well, we need to call it March Madness because this has been disappointing. Like, I was promised madness. Where is it? Like, in the round of 32, half the teams were from either the SEC or Big Ten. Round 16, you didn't have a school that wasn't from a Power 4 conference. I thought March Madness was defined by Cinderellas, underdogs making it far against these titans of college sports. We just haven't seen that this year. And this is even more the case in the Final Four, where you have 4 1 seeds against each other. The first time that's happened since 2008. So it's definitely been disappointing. You have had some action, but none of the insanity that makes March Madness what it is.
Yeah, Julian, what are your thoughts on the tournament?
Kind of like Ian said, the games haven't been that great for the most part. We haven't had any crazy upsets aside from McNeese State, but then they get bounced by 20 by Purdue in the second round. That's about as crazy as we got. We did have Colorado State beating Memphis, a 5 seed early on in the tournament. I mean, aside from those two, nothing really like groundbreaking that's really going to break anyone's brackets. It's been a tournament for the most part where the favorites have done what they're supposed to do and win these games.
Yeah, it's been a lot of chalk this year. As we mentioned, the 4 teams, all 1 seeds. That like Ian said, that has not happened since 2008. And some people see that as a bad thing, but I think another view could be it's a good thing. You get very competitive basketball at the end. Julian, what are your thoughts on an all 1 seed Final Four?
I think it's good for the sport. I think if we look at it, I think the 4 best teams are the 4 teams that are still in the tournament. If you look, the SEC powerhouse, they have 2 teams in there with Auburn and Florida, and they're going to play each other. But then on the other side, I think you have ACC Power Duke. They get Cooper Flagg back and healthy. So, they're a force to be reckoned with. And then Houston, just known for their defense. It's really pushed them through this entire tournament. So I'm just really interested to see how this tournament plays out in these final 3 games.
Now, I agree on the quality of the basketball, but I disagree that it is good for the sport because it kind of gets back to the phenomenon. No one wants to see the New England Patriots or Kansas City Chiefs win another Super Bowl. I feel like the Cinderellas are what makes March Madness fun. You want at least some of them to get far. Having the number 1 seeds make it there just makes it kind of boring, if I'm being honest. Even though these are excellent teams, you want some variety.
Yeah, I think a lot of people love to see those Cinderellas. But again, college basketball this year has been dominated by the best teams. The teams at the top have really stayed at the top. So let's go down the list of the best teams remaining. Obviously, we have our Final Four. Ian, who do you think is the best team left in the field?
I got to go Duke. I mean, that trio of NBA stars, the Holy Trinity, Cooper Flagg, projected number 1 overall pick, ACC Tournament Most Outstanding Player, Con Knippel, and ACC All-Freshman, Kaman Malawach. It's hard to pronounce, I'm sorry. But yeah, those 3, all freshmen, by the way, have just powered this team that even besides them is just loaded from top to bottom. Like, some of the players on this team would be starters on a lot of other teams, especially the mid-high level teams. And they've won by margins that outdo all the others, like especially against Alabama, where they held the Crimson Tide to just 65 points. That's the number 1 offense in the country that had just dropped 113 on BYU in their previous game.
Yeah, I mean, they have been playing outstanding. I think a lot of people have picked them in their brackets. I think they were the favorite on ESPN because of guys like Cooper Flagg. Julian, who's your best team remaining?
So I'm not going to hit on the same point that Ian just did, but I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go Houston here. I think Duke overall, offensively, is the best team, but I think when it comes down to defense, I think no one is even close to what Houston's been able to do. They absolutely mopped the floor with Tennessee in their Elite 8 game. Tennessee got it within 7, and then Houston's defense really just kind of slammed the door on them. They went on a 9-2 run with about a minute and a half left in that game. So just Houston's defense has really propelled them, and I'm really interested to see if Houston's defense is able to overcome all the great scores that Duke has.
Houston has been able to lock up a lot of great teams. They have some great defensive guards, but a team that has a great offensive guard this tournament, I think he's been the MVP in my opinion. That's Florida and Walter Clayton Jr. Julian, let's go back to that game against Texas Tech. It went down to the wire, and obviously their best players showed up at the right time. What were your thoughts on Florida, and do you think they can win it all?
Yeah, so I think Florida, they looked relatively good. It was a back-and-forth game with Texas Tech, super entertaining game. But just, I think at the end of the game, if you look, Florida's guys were able to make those shots to put them ahead for good. Texas Tech, they did have some shots that really did put them in a position to win the game. Don't get me wrong. But I just think at the end of the day, Florida has those guys who, and we saw in the SEC tournament, they have those guys who are going to be able to make those shots that are going to put them where they are now in the Final Four with a chance to go win the championship. When my bracket came out, I had Florida winning the entire tournament. And, you know, looking back, I probably would have changed it to Duke. But I think Florida is still a very large team to win the entire tournament.
Yeah, and you can't ignore just Florida's abilities in the clutch. When the game comes down to the line, it's a fight decided by inches. Florida will deliver. They had a narrow win over UConn. They outscored their opponents 47-33 in the second half against Maryland. They ended the game on an 18-4 run against Texas Tech. And like you said, Walter Clayton Jr. has been just dominant in these playoffs. So I do think that even though they're not my personal favorite to win, they do have the ability to put up a good fight.
Yeah, they'll have to put up a great fight against Auburn, the #1 overall seed, making it back to the Final Four. Florida and Auburn will be the first game to tip off. So, Ian, I'll start with you. Predict the winner of that game.
I got to go Florida. Like I said, they're just too good in the clutch to ignore. And Auburn, they've been defensively pretty good throughout this tournament, but let's not forget they ended their season with some defensive struggles, and that's not going to be helped by the fact that Johnny Broome Jr. who's been a keystone for them. He was injured in their last game. He did come back, but we don't know if he's going to be at 100% in this game. I think that's what gives Florida the edge.
Julian?
I think Ian hit on a lot of great points. I think the main thing that comes down to with Auburn is we've just seen a lot of inconsistencies. Toward the end of the year, they were unable to win those big games. They lost a big one on the road against Texas A&M before tournament play started, and they didn't even win their conference, the tournament. They didn't win that one. Florida got the best of them in the tournament. So I just think Florida at this one, they kind of know what Auburn wants to do, and I think that's where Florida truly gets the edge to win this game.
How poetic is it that we have two SEC teams, the best conference all year, they get to meet in the Final Four. Let's talk about our other matchup here, Duke and Houston, two clashing styles, two great defenses. It should be a great game to watch. Julian, I'll start with you. Who's winning this game?
So my heart wants me to go with Houston, but I just think Cooper Flagg is just too good. Nobody's been able to stop him so far. He's been averaging over 20 in this tournament. I just think unless Houston is able to slow him down, because he's the catalyst for that Duke offense, if they're able to slow him down, I think Houston does have a great opportunity to try and win this game. But I just think if they're not able to slow down Cooper Flagg and he's able to do what he's been doing the entire tournament, I don't know if Houston really has a shot.
Ian?
Well, as a person who was raised in Dallas, my heart does not go out to Houston, and I think the Blue Devils take this. Now, it's worth noting that these are both two very good defensive units, but I think Houston's advantage in offense is not as big as the Blue Devils' advantage. Houston's advantage in defense is not as good as the Blue Devils' advantage in offense. Like that trio I mentioned, especially Flagg, they are just monsters. And while I do think Houston will make it close, I don't think they have the firepower to keep up with Duke.
Ian, is this a game where Cooper Flagg really cements himself as the #1 overall pick and takes over? Because the big stage is where the biggest stars need to show up.
I think so. Like we said, Houston is the best defense in the country. If Cooper Flagg can deliver on this stage of all, then he's basically cemented his status as the likely NBA starter and first overall pick. Like, this is the closest thing he can get to the game speed of the NBA while still in college.
Julian?
Yeah, I think if he is able to do this, in my opinion, he's probably had the best freshman year. I think the only guy who you could even maybe compare is a Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams getting to college football. But I think entire freshman of the year in college sports, I think if Cooper Flagg is able to get Duke and they're able to beat Houston and win a national championship, I think he puts himself head and shoulders above anyone else. And I truly just think that if he is able to propel them over Houston and for whatever SEC team they meet in the championship game, he's got to be the clear #1 overall pick in the draft.
You don't see a lot of star players lead a team to a national championship. Shout out Carmelo Anthony. Last guy on my mind to do it. Let's talk about your predictions for the overall national champion. I'm going to go with Florida here. Ian, who's going to win it all?
I'm going to go with Duke because being good in the clutch doesn't help when you're getting blown out by 20 points. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be anywhere near that much of a landslide, but Duke is just too loaded to lose, in my opinion. They have all the talent. They're great on both sides of the ball. They have the star power. Flagg is even better than anything Florida can offer. So I think Duke takes it.
I'm going to agree with Ian on this one. I have Duke winning as well. I think, in my opinion, whoever wins the right side of the bracket between Houston and Duke, I think is going to win the national championship. I truly just think that coming down to it, if Duke's offense is able to propel them over Houston, I don't think after seeing that kind of defense that Houston plays, they'll be able to propel themselves over either SEC team on the left side of the bracket. But if Houston's able to win, I truly just think Houston's not going to have any problem slowing down those two SEC teams. They've already done it with Tennessee once, kind of the same style of basketball that Florida and Auburn play. So I truly just think whoever wins that right side of the bracket is probably going to take the title in this one.
It's going to be a fun one to watch. Coming up next, we talk about UNC and how they're still alive in the NIT.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Craving something fresh, flavorful, and made just for you? Look no further than Avesta, your go-to destination for a delicious, full-service dining experience. Dive into our customizable omelets, expertly crafted by our talented cook Jonathan, who guarantees every bite is perfection. All our dishes are handmade, prepared with only the freshest ingredients. Explore our assembly line where you can choose from any of our globally inspired dishes, or customize your plate. It's that easy. And let's not forget dessert. Indulge your sweet tooth with treats from Clark Bakery. With convenient payment methods including card or flex, it's the perfect dining spot for any occasion. Quench your thirst with our wide selection of drinks. Just hand your drinking card to our friendly waiter, and they'll bring your beverage of choice right to your table. When you're done savoring every last bite, our attentive staff will whisk away your tray. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance as you dine in, or use our takeout option for a meal on the go. Avesta.
Welcome back in the Sports Zone. UNC is at it again. They have reached the semifinals of the NIT and are looking to take their second NIT championship in 3 years. Here to talk about it with me today is Gabe Ife and Griffin Flack. Gabe, what are your thoughts on UNC so far in this tournament?
UNT so far has played really well. They beat a tough Oklahoma State team on the road, which, I don't think they're one of the better. They're in the NIT certainly for a reason. They had a really tough year, and Coach Steve Lutz's first year at Oklahoma State. But to go on the road in a crazy environment, it was a packed house, and be able to get that one was big. I've really seen the guard play jumping into it. I think the guard play has been a lot better than what we saw against UAB. And honestly, down the stretch of the conference schedule, guard play struggled outside of Adam Wright's 42-point game against Charlotte a few weeks back. And so Jasper Floyd's really stepped up. He had 19 and 18 in the first two games. Adam Wright have struggled a little bit against Oklahoma State, but him and Jasper Floyd combined for 25 points. And so I really say that's really been the key in this run so far.
Yeah, I really love Adam Wright's play so far in the NIT. And let's talk about the AAC for a little bit. I'm gonna talk about the difference. Against UAB, we really struggled offensively, just had so many turnovers. But in this NIT, especially against Oklahoma State, our defense only held them to 39% shooting. So our defense, and coming out at halftime, our second half performance has just been so good. And that's the difference between what we've done so far in the NIT and the AAC. In the AAC tournament, we would just look flat, especially against UAB. We beat Tulsa pretty single-handedly, pretty easily. But against UAB, we had too many turnovers.
Yeah, I think a lot of UNC fans love to see that they're taking this tournament differently than the AAC, although I think we all agree. I think we'd much rather want a AAC championship. However, this is still a great thing for UNC. Obviously, we don't get a lot of opportunities in these big tournaments, so I think this is a great opportunity for UNC. Gabe, what are your thoughts on the difference of how UNC has played in the AAC versus the NIT?
I think the guards have really stepped up. One thing that we've been stressing all year in Mean Green Mania, in SportsZone, on all of our blogs talking about guard play. We have experienced guards. Adam Wright, I believe, 5th year from Drake. Jasper Floyd's been around. He has, I think, a one more year due to the JUCO rule. But all of our guards, Jonathan Massey played at Longwood, made the NCAA tournament. These guys, we've been saying all year, have experience. They've won in at other stops. But to win in March, you need great guard play. And so I know I'm harping on it, but I really feel like that's kind of the difference we've seen. Adam Wright, in the semifinal loss to UAB, had 0 points at halftime. He ended up putting up 12 because he had a couple really good threes at the very end of that game to make his stat line a little more respectable. But he wasn't on when we needed him to be. And so in the NIT, I think they've really taken it personal, and they've taken really just a direct role and really realized we need to step up if we want to be successful. And so I really think that's what led to the success so far.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Wright has been so good. Aside from that UAB game, I mean, he had 0 points at halftime. But, I mean, he hit 2,000 career points. For him, he had 24 against Tulsa. And, I mean, Jasper Floyd and Adam Wright combined for 37 against Furman. They've just been playing so well, especially in the NIT tournament, which they're going to have to be the reasons that we make the championship and we ultimately win it.
Guard play has been very important to UNC in the past. The last time they won the NIT tournament, Tyler Perry was leading this team, and I know a lot of people in Denton remember that run. Gabe, do you think UNC can make a similar run that they did 2 years ago?
I think they can. Now, the difference between whether they can and will is a big thing. I think the inconsistent level of play we've frankly seen all season. We'll get into a little bit of a season recap under Hodge's tenure and a little bit later in the block. But they just had an inconsistent level of play this year. Every time they've been playing consistent high-level teams, they haven't been able to get it done consistently. And so for that reason, while I think they have the skill and the talent to, it's hard for me to see them winning 2 more against some high level quality mid-majors. So I think they can, but the difference of whether they will or not, I think that's a big question. I don't know if they will.
Well, I mean, like you said, we have the talent to get to the championship, but we're going to have to face some tough opponents, starting with UC Irvine, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But, I mean, we've had key wins against, like, some pretty formidable opponents recently in the NIT, and Adam Wright has to continue. Jasper Floyd has to continue to play well. We're going to have to continue to play defense well. We're going to have to stop the turnovers. If we can do all that, then, yeah, we for sure can make the championship and we can win it.
Griffin, I want your thoughts on this UC Irvine matchup. They were a big contender in their conference, and they only lost to UC San Diego, one of the better teams in the first round of 64. Do you think UNC has a good chance of winning this game?
Yes, but we're going to have to do some things on the defensive end. They play a very physical, very tight defense. They rebound the ball well. Bent Lichkin of UC Irvine is a stud. 15 points, 9 rebounds. They have a bunch of guys that can just crash the glass. So we're going to have to keep them off the boards, and we're going to have to limit our turnovers. That's going to be key if we want to beat UC Irvine.
You bring up Ben. I have one other guy for you, Miles Che. He only averages 12 points a game, but he's shooting 43% from the three-point line. That's a guy you cannot let get hot. He's a sophomore guard, transfer from the other NIT semifinal, Chattanooga. He's been a great player for them. While his points per game average hasn't been as high as it doesn't pop off the stat sheet, you really need to stop a guy like that. That's what, when you talk about Massey, when you talk about Adam Wright, not only on the offensive end are we going to need some of those guys to step up, they're going to have to lock him down defensively, because if you let a guy like that who shoots 43% from 3 get hot, you're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah, I mean, they hold opponents to 39% shooting, and they out-rebound their opponents. So we're going to have to be able to control the paint and make some shots if we do want to have a chance to win.
A lot of things to focus on for the Mean Green, but it's kind of hard to keep focus when your coach leaves you. Ross Hodge is on his way to West Virginia after this NIT tournament. Griffin, I'll start with you. Coach Hodge has meant a lot to the UNC. How would you summarize his tenure here in Denton?
Man, he's going to be truly missed here at UNT because of the identity and the culture he brought. All of his players were bought into Ross Hodge. He got everyone to play defense. He just got the team chemistry up. He has accolades, and he has a championship. He has all these wonderful things. Ross Hodge, he's going to be truly missed because of his presence on the court.
Him and Grant McCaslin did more for UNT athletics and the men's basketball program specifically than most fans may ever know. The success that they both had has been incredible. You look at, we're starting to get into our new coach who hopefully will continue that. But his success, under both their leadership, where Hodge really started out as that associate, he was the defensive mastermind. And so bringing that, he really continued that. They had of course, the big win was the March Madness win against Purdue a few years back. They won the CBI title in Grant's first year. They won the NIT title. And then you go into a year where you have a bunch of transfers. Hodge's first year, due to injuries, they struggled, but they still got an NIT win on the road against LSU in Hodge's first year. That's a big accomplishment to go on an SEC school and get a postseason win. This year, the team stays healthy. I don't know if y'all know how many transfers we had out, but if fans have been watching March Madness, you see fellow UNT players everywhere. St. John's has Aaron Scott. Reuben Jones is at Michigan. Jason Edwards was at Vandy in the first round. And there's more. CJ Nolan, New Mexico. And so for Hodge to lose that many quality players, be able to rebound and have them in the semifinals of the NIT, finish second in the American, that just shows you how tremendous of a coach he is. He's going to kill it at West Virginia, but he's done so much.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about how many injuries and how many players he lost, and to still be able to gather wins is just a testament to how great of a coach he is and how much the players really buy into his system.
Yeah, one thing he was great at doing was finding replacements, and UNC has found his replacement. Gabe, real quick, talk about Daniel Robinson and the hire for UNT.
Daniel Robinson, he's a coach from Cleveland State. I know we showed a graphic a minute ago. He has 3 20-plus win seasons in a row in his first kind of head coaching track at the D1 level. He came, before there, he was at Iowa State for 7 years under Coach TJ Otzelberger, who's a fantastic coach. Obviously, we saw Iowa State in the March Madness this weekend, or this past couple of weeks, and they have a great program there. But there, he coached guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Taylor Horton Tucker, so he's coached NBA talent. He had one guy, Tristan Ariana, come from Cleveland State and signed a contract with the Boston Celtics. So he can clearly develop talent. He's a defensive-minded coach. Keep on that same mantra. He's going to do a great job here.
It's going to be hard to replace Coach Hodge in that culture he built. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Texas Rangers and their hot start to the year.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounce checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back into SportsZone. The Texas Rangers have opened up their season after finishing up a series against the Boston Red Sox. Here to talk about it with me today is Nick Forrester and Christina Orozco. Nick, I'm going to start with you. What did you think about the series against Boston?
I mean, on the whole, I thought it was pretty impressive. I must say, after the first game, I was a little worried. 5-2 loss, didn't look very good. But I think that second game was really integral in sort of pushing the team to win this series. I mean, they came out all guns blazing. And I definitely think that was the main reason and the main sort of contribution and the main bit of motivation they needed to sort of spark a bit of like momentum and go on and win the series.
Christina?
Yeah, exactly. That first game, we saw that pitching really fell apart in that last half, and that's what really resulted in that first game loss. They came back later in the other 3 games. We saw a healthy Jacob deGrom, which is really great. He was long gone. He came back in spring training, really showed his potential from coming back. He got 5 scoreless innings in that finale, got them to that win, especially since Boston is such a tough team to play. I think it really shows what they're going to do division-wise and AL-wise.
It's nice to see some good pitching after last season's debacle in the bullpen. Let's talk about some things the Rangers have done well. Like I mentioned, it was a rough last season, but coming out 3-1, a series win, I think that's a good sign for the Rangers. So, Christina, what are your thoughts?
Defensively, we saw some great performances from Josh Smith, Langford, and Berger, especially after the loss of Nathaniel Lowe. They were going to lose that first baseman position, but Berger has really done well offensively and defensively. Josh Smith making some grabs at shortstop. He was really in there. And being able to back up their pitching, who had their faults here and there, but defense came to close up for them.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's the main reason why they won, to be honest, was shutting down the offense. I mean, like she mentioned, the Red Sox are they're no joke. They are a good team. They are the favorites within their own division. But if you look at the batting, I mean, Tristan Casas, he went 0 for 3. Rafael Devers went 0 for 4. And obviously, Rafi made history with having 12 strikeouts within his first 4 games. So, yeah, just on the whole, I think defensively they did a really good job.
Yeah, while 3-1, a great way to start the year. It is very early in the season, which means there are still some things this team can improve on if they want to get back in the World Series contention. Nick, I'll start with you. What are some things you think they can work on?
I mean, honestly, I think their major issue is keeping people healthy. I mean, Josh Jung is the one that comes to mind for me. I mean, how many times have we seen this where first couple of weeks, he gets injured, and it's happened again this year. I mean, 1 series, 4 games, he's already injured with neck spasm. So I don't know what they need to do. Maybe they need to wrap him up in bubble wrap or something. But yeah, that's what I think the main thing they need to work on is, I guess.
Again, health-wise with Josh Smith and Bradford on the IL. I mean, losing Bradford is going to be hard. Their bullpen is already struggling, which is another thing they need to improve on. Evo has the endurance. He does his thing. But they're always so careful with deGrom, which, I mean, fairly so. He's very injury-prone. It's going to be hard for them to kind of get into a rotation of who's going to be ending for them, relievers and closers. They lost 6 relievers last year. They lost Leclerc, Yates, and Robertson over the offseason. So being able to fulfill those positions now with some younger guys, some veterans, they got Chris Martin, Kevin Pillar. It's going to be hard, but they just have to get used to them and them used to getting so many innings in the end.
Christina, I want to stay with you on Jacob deGrom. The Rangers a couple off seasons ago spent a lot of money to get him, but it finally seems like he's getting back healthy, which will be great. They paid him like a superstar. Christina, should we expect him to play like a superstar?
I mean, I hope so. Again, health is key for deGrom. He is very sensitive, and so, I mean, deGrom, when he is in it, he's there for them, and the Rangers just need to be careful with how long they're going to use him for. They've kind of used him very carefully, only like 1 or 2 here, even in spring training. They just really have to be careful with him, really.
Yep. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely key with a player like this. Definitely someone who, when he is healthy, is a very like a top level pitcher. I mean, like we spoke about earlier, 5 innings, only 2 hits throughout that whole time period, which to me is super impressive. But yeah, like we've spoken about, he's super sensitive. He is very injury prone, and I think they should use him sparingly, at least for right now. Maybe try to keep him healthy for the postseason, because at the end of the day, that's where championships are won.
Yeah, the Rangers really need him back if they do want to make another World Series run. But the Rangers were built on their depth, and a lot of key role players are back, especially some superstars are back and healthy as well. Nick, who are some players who have stood out to you in that series?
Well, I mean, in that last series, like we said, the main issue coming into the season for the Rangers was that we were scared that we didn't have a closer. There was no pitcher. There was a weakness at pitching. And I think someone who impressed me personally throughout this series was actually Leiter. I think he's someone who I think has struggled a lot with consistency, especially recently. But throughout this series, he was pitching consistently. And yeah, I think if he can do that across the whole season, then the Rangers are definitely looking better in that side of the ball, I guess.
Yeah, the Rangers drafted him pretty high a couple years ago. It's good to finally see him on the mound. Christina, who are some players who stood out to you?
Obviously, Garcia, offensively, he made that goal. He stated his goal in offseason saying he wanted 50 home runs and 100 RBIs by the end of the season. He was able to get 2 home runs and 4 RBIs throughout this series. You know, he's always going to be doing his thing offensively, and I hope to see that continue to grow after this, especially in Cincinnati. That's who they face next. And Jonah Heim, surprisingly, offensively, he got 2 home runs. I know that the Rangers are considering him and Higashioka for catcher, you know, potentially switching them in and out, seeing who does better at different things. I guess that's up to Bruce Bochy with that one, you know.
Adolis Garcia was a huge part of that World Series run. We saw some iconic moments, and now it seems like he's starting the year hot, which I think could be a great thing for the Rangers. How important, Nick, is Adolis Garcia, him getting back this early in the season?
I mean, it's vital. I mean, if you want to compete for a championship, if you want to win your division like the Rangers are aspiring to do and like they should do, really looking at the sort of the division that they're in, their only real main competitors to me personally are the Astros. I think the Mariners are just, they don't have enough batting power, but yeah, it's vital. At the end of the day, when it comes to especially a tight division like this, if they want to beat the Astros and if they want to, I guess, you know, represent the state, then they're going to need all guns blazing.
Christina, what are your thoughts on Garcia?
I mean, he kind of opens up the offseason with pretty high goals, and, you know, we all know how he is, very, you know, he's very confident in himself. So, I mean, it's going to be rewarding if he is able to kind of match those goals that he wants for him. And if not, that kind of looks a little bad on him, especially when they face the Astros. You know, he has that attitude towards them, and especially in their division. So I hope to see that continue and not, you know, kind of fall in and out with him.
He's got to put his money where his mouth is. That's how I see it.
It's a good thing that he's backing up his trash talk this early in the year. At least we have that so far. Now let's talk about the Rangers for the rest of the season. Obviously, it's only been 4 games, but there's a lot of baseball left to be played. Christina, how do you think the Rangers will do the rest of the season?
As long as we are healthy and as long as they're continuing to have that cycle of pitching regulated and, you know, kind of fixed up, kind of tweaked with the younger guys and those veterans that we just got in the offseason, I think they'll be great. Obviously, the Mariners and the Astros will be people to look out for in the AL West. AL in general, the Red Sox will be tough, and especially the Yankees offensively with their torpedo bats. That's going to be something to kind of keep an eye out for in the AL. We'll see what the MLB does about their bat situation and what other I know other teams like the Padres and the Braves are looking at that. So we'll see how that's regulated and if the Rangers will do anything in that effect with the bats.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it a bit earlier, but to me, the 2 biggest, I guess, threats right now, mainly the Astros. I think the Astros are the biggest threat. I think they just have the most. They have the most well-rounded package. I do think the Mariners obviously have an amazing defense, but as we know, they've struggled to bat within the last few years, and I don't think they've made enough changes this year. So I think they'll probably be a little further behind. But yeah, I think really it's going to come down to an old Texan affair when it comes to who's going to win this division.
Yeah, the division's always fun to watch. It always seems to come down to the last wire. Let's talk about the MLB as a whole and how the Rangers stand up. Christina, you mentioned the Yankees. They've gone off to not just a hot start, a blazing start.
Exactly.
Do you think the Rangers can compete with a team like that along with the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, teams like that?
I mean, we saw the Rangers pitching take down some key hitters for Red Sox, so maybe they'll be able to do that with the Yankees. You know, if we put DeGrom in there, we put Evo in there, they'll be able to get the job done, take down some of the Yankees. But then again, the Yankees are the Yankees. They have the bats. That'll be someone that they need to be ready for. I think defensively they can handle them, but it'll be a tough one offensively and against the Rangers pitching as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the Yankees, I think the Yankees have started fantastically, but I think at the end of the day, they probably will cool off a bit, and I do think that one aspect that we haven't looked at is that the Rangers have an amazing defense. That's one of the key reasons why we've won so many games throughout, well, this year and then obviously last year as well. I think for me, though, the major issue is the Dodgers. I just don't see anyone in the MLB like being able to compete and being able to ultimately defeat them when we do get to that World Series. So for me personally, I think the Dodgers go back-to-back for the first time, or well, the first time it's happened in the MLB for 20 years, more than 20 years, whatever, since I forgot who did it in the 90s, but yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to go back to back.
And even though there's a lot of competition, one thing we can hang our hat on is the Bruce Bochy World Series after a bad year. I think we can all agree that's something we can look forward to. Coming up, we travel back to Denton to talk UNT softball.
I use Flex to buy my favorite snacks.
I use Flex to get me through my mornings.
I use Flex at my favorite campus restaurants.
I love how Flex is a cashless payment method and can be used at all campus dining venues.
So, how do you use Flex?
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DatQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DatQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DatQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
Welcome back in the Sports Zone. Here to join with me today to talk UNT softball is Gabe Ife and Mason Branham. Guys, UNT softball has been a big staple in Denton for a couple of years now. Mason, I'll start with you. What do you think about their season so far?
I mean, it's been a great season so far. One of the things kind of looking at the season, obviously the big win against Texas Tech, the walk-off home run, that was a big moment, I think, for the program. But overall, there's been a lot of good things. The big win against Troy, they won 7-3. Sweep against Memphis, 11-3, 13-7, 6-1. And then just a couple games ago against Tulsa, run-ruling Tulsa, and then winning by 10 runs. That's just something, we haven't seen a lot from this program. So it's definitely been one of the better seasons, I would say. I think just the way this team has played, the way this team has looked so far, I think it's been great.
Good.
You talk about the win against Tech. That's a historic win for the program, given the expectations, giving Nigeri Kennedy pitching on the mound. That was a big-time win for the Mean Green. Coach Ronnie DeLong has done a great job this season. Conference play has gone off to a little bit of a rougher start, 7-5. If you take one more look at the non-conference, you not only see we beat Tech, we also beat Baylor in Waco. Now, they're not as good as Tech in the Big 12, but that's still a Big 12 opponent on the road. We went 1-1 in their tournament the weekend, I believe a weekend or two after that Tech game. And so that was another big-time win for us. But, you get back to kind of conference play, kind of started out a little rough, but they're 7-5. We just run-rule Tulsa, got the series win against them, and so that was really big time for us.
Yeah, you just mentioned the series against Tulsa. They got the series win, and they're in good standing with the American Conference. So a little behind the top teams, but they are still very much in contention. Mason, what were your thoughts on that series?
I mean, again, just the offensive firepower we saw from the series was one of the best we've seen so far this season. I mean, again, with the way that this team has looked, specifically Sierra Simon, Riley McNamer, Kaylin Bearpaul, they've been, three of the top hitters for this team. And with the way this team has been shaped, we need those kind of hitters to step up. And I think with these next couple series with UTSA coming up, FAU and UAB, those are big conference series. I think those are ones that if you're looking at the schedule, you want to take at least 2 out of 3, if not sweep. So I think these big games are going to come up soon, and I think this is going to be the time for the team to step up, and I think they're going to step up.
You look at beating Tulsa on the road, that's a team that's comparable to us. That's a team that we recruit girls within the same area. That's a team that we're fighting for, recruits. We're fighting for wins against them. We just had a couple players transfer from there. I believe it was Kaylin Bearpaw. My apologies if that's wrong, but I believe we had 1 or 2 players just transfer from Tulsa. So to go up on the road, which talk all you want. Winning in college athletics on the road is always something that's challenging. You're not sleeping in your own bed. You're having to stay in a hotel over a couple nights, not getting, cooking from, the team or whatever, or like, at home cooking, but you're eating hotel food or, fast food, whatever. And so to go up there, have the bats be as good as they were, to be able to run roll and in conference play is very impressive. And so that was a big series win.
Yeah, UNC has been pretty good in conference play, but they've also had some big tests to start the year. They last played Texas A&M, and it didn't go so well for the Mean Green. They had some good moments, but overall couldn't pull it out in the end. Gabe, what were your thoughts on that type of test for this team?
It was a good test. You want to see games like this. You know that some of them are going to end rough. They were in it. They scored a few in the 5th and 6th, before pitching. It just kind of got away from them at the very end. I believe it was just a few-run game kind of going into that 4th, 5th inning. So, start off the game was great. Eventually, the pitching, it tends to happen when you play Power 4 programs where your pitching is just going to eventually wear out. That's what you see a lot of the time, and that's what happened. But to go to College Station and to put up a fight, it did not end as the way we wanted to. But you need tests like that just to see where you're at and see how you can play against competition that you're playing week in and week out in conference play.
For sure. Mason, they sit at 22-12, and they've had some big-time players show up for them so far during the season. Who are some names who have shown up for you?
Yeah, definitely looking at the offense again. Simon, McNamer, Bearpaul. Simon hitting .397 with 4 home runs, 27 RBIs. McNamer with batting .346, 6 home runs, 26 RBIs. Bearpaul leading the team with 7 home runs. But you look at just the way this team has been, there really isn't one weakness in this lineup. There isn't, whenever you look at a lineup, you'll have, the leadoff will be the big contact. 3 through 5 will be the power, and then kind of 6, 7, 8, 9 will be kind of the lower. But really, there's been no weakness with this team. I mean, every person on this team has the ability to make big plays and come through in clutch moments. And I think just the way this team looks, and I think the way this offense looks, is going to lead them to success. And the one issue that I've kind of seen with this team has been in pitching. Now, it hasn't necessarily been bad pitching or anything like that, but you look at Anderson and Savage. Savage is 11-5, but a 4.2 ERA. Anderson with a 9-3 record, 3.7 ERA, but a 64 to 45 walk to strikeout ratio. That's kind of been something that this team has struggled with, is giving up free bases and giving up walks. And I think once you kind of reel that back in, I think Anderson's going to do a good job of making adjustments. And, Savage has been a Savage whenever she pitches on the mound. And I think she's going to be that kind of backup, ace rotation. And Anderson's going to play that good 2 role. And I think if they can kind of limit walks and lower their ERA a little bit, I think this team's going to be one of the teams to be in the conference.
You look at Kaylee Smith, that's a pitcher, one of our other pitchers. She doesn't have as much innings. She only has 46 innings. She has a 3.04 ERA, a 1.4 whip. She's been a great pitcher for us. She's really stepped up. She's someone I could see getting more usage as we go to the end of the season, get into the conference tournament, because she's really proven this year. She's been able to get some outs that we've really needed. Other pitchers, Savage, I would say, has taken a little bit step back this year. She's still been a great pitcher for us, just not as consistent as in years past. And so you really need a pitcher like that. And so Kaylee Smith's been big. And why we've been fighting in conference a little bit, I would say she's kind of played a crucial role. You look at a player like Kaylin Bearpaw, mentioned the 7 homers, a 944 OPS. That's great. On base plus slugging, if you don't know. But she's been hitting the ball and hitting the ball hard. And so when you have a player like that, that's a constant threat that they have to be on the lookout for. That's something that going in the series against UTSA and going down the road is going to be a big threat for us. And that'll be a big help to the Mean Green.
Gabe, I want to stick with you here. Mason mentioned their pitching. You lamented how well they've been pitching, but Mason says that it's kind of been a little bit of an issue for UNC here down the stretch. Do you think that's something they need to fix as they finish their last half of the season?
That is something you need to fix, but it's something that will only fix, I guess. I'm not the most well-versed, but these players have had experience. They've been here for years. Skylar Savage, I believe, is a senior, junior somewhere. She's had a couple years here at UNT. We've seen Annika Anderson for a couple years on the mound, and so it's something that you just kind of have to figure out. You get more and more time. There's different adjustments you can make throughout the season, and it is something that you need to fix, especially going into the inter-conference tournament when you're trying to get the best seed possible. That is really something that does need to be fixed because the offense is supporting them fine. You just really need to stops after you get runs,
Yeah, as the graphic just said, 24-12. My apologies, I said 22-12 earlier. Mason, how do you think the pitching can be fixed?
Well, I think, again, looking at the stats, the one big thing that I would say is just limit walks. And I mean, whenever you give up a lot of walks, you're giving up free base runners. So let's say you walk the first batter. Now you have a runner on first, no outs. If you make a single, first and second, no outs, a productive out gives you second and third with only one out. And that's a good chance, for you to score 1 or 2 runs. Now, obviously, it's going to be something that everyone's going to have to work on, but I think that these women can work on it. I think this is going to be something that obviously the pitching coaches are going to talk to them about. It's going to be something that they're going to talk to each other about, but I really do think, with the way this team has looked, and especially kind of looking at last year, there was a lot of second half adjustments that really helped this team at the end of the season. I think with the way this has started, you're at a good starting point, you're in a good spot. You just make a couple adjustments here and there with the pitching, limit walks, limit hits, and I think this is definitely going to be one of the better teams that we've seen here in the past few years, and I definitely think this is going to be one of the best teams in the conference.
Hopefully those issues can be fixed against their next series against UTSA. Gabe, I know you had some thoughts about this matchup. What do you think?
I really think it's a matchup. It can be a get-right series. Now, it's a rival, so you always want to go in a rivalry series knowing they're going to give you their all. They have had these couple games marked on their calendar because it's UNT, UTSA. It's a big rivalry. I'll give you a couple players to watch out for real quick. Michaela Madrid, she is 821 OPS for them. They're not that great of an offensive hitting team. They're 2-10 in conference and 14-19 overall. She's really one of the players to watch out for them on offense. She really can hit well. And then in terms of pitching, Reagan Stout, she's a 3.85 ERA over 36 appearances. You're really going to need to watch out for her on the mound and be able to get some hits off her, get her out of the game early.
I really do hope it's a get-right series for UNT. To finish up our show, coming up next, we talk about the transfer portal in college basketball.
On the radio today, I don't know about this. This is not it.
Everything alternative, commercial free. 88.1 Indy.
Here at KNTU, we have 2 traditional stations, 88.1 Indy and KNTU Jazz. We've also recently launched an internet radio station called Mean Green Hits. If you want to hear more, you can check us out at MediaNorthTexas.com.
That was pretty good.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today. Are you looking for a fun club with travel opportunities? Dive into the UNT Swim Club. Practicing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Pool Recreation Center. We accept members at any skill level. For more information, reach out to us at unt.swimclub on Instagram.
Welcome back in the Sports Zone. Once again, the transfer portal is a big topic of discussion in the college landscape. Over 1,000 players have already entered the college basketball transfer portal. Here to talk about it with me today is Parker Smith and Jai Mitchell. Parker, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on so many players already jumping in the portal?
I mean, guys, this is what we expect. Whenever the name, image, and likeness deals started to come out for the NCAA, we knew these players were going to start exploring their options. And now that, we kind of called for this for such a long time, we can't complain about it when they choose to jump into the transfer portal. I mean, a lot of people don't understand this about the portal, but when you enter it, you can still come back to your original school. So in reality, all they're doing is surveying their options, seeing what's available for them, seeing where the money's at, and making their move.
Jack?
For me, I like the transfer portal because it allows players to control their own destiny. Certain players that might go to a school and they was telling them coming into the season that they was going to be starters or they was going to be one of the key players, and then turn out that that doesn't happen. So I feel like the transfer portal is very good for players to just be able to control their own destiny and their own future.
You guys are very positive on the transfer portal, but I think what a lot of people complain about is not only just the amount of players, but also the big-time players leaving their mid-major schools, or at least schools they haven't really shined yet. Do you think that's an issue, that so many players are jumping ship too early, Jai?
Sometimes I feel like it can be a problem because at times athletes kind of tend to like not stick it out, like not grind it out anymore, because they just have the freedom to where they can just go wherever they want. So I feel like in some situations, some players probably is running from the grind, but at the same time, it's all good to be able to leave whenever you want.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem whatsoever. When you look at it at the professional level, if a player, like let's go back to LeBron. He plays 7 years in Cleveland. They don't put a team around him, and he leaves and goes to Miami. He's controlling his own destiny. He's going somewhere where he can compete for a championship, and that's all these players at the college level want to do as well. We called for this for so many years. Players need to be getting paid. Players need to be getting paid to go play in college because their jersey sales are making just as much money at the NFL level. They can go make that money at a bigger school, and they want to compete for championships just like people do at the professional level. I'm looking at the 4 1 seeds that are in the college basketball championship right now, and a lot of people are complaining about it. They're calling it March Midness, for heaven's sake. Guys, this is going to be the best Final Four in a long time because of the transfer portal. These guys are coming in here, they're making these stacked teams, and we're going to be the ones benefiting from it when we get these excellent matchups in the Final Four in a championship. I don't want to see San Diego State versus UConn, a 30-point blowout in the championship. I want to see the best teams competing for a title year in and year out, and this gives us the best chance to see that.
I mean, Parker, you don't have any issue with guys like Elliot Cadeau, RJ Luis entering the portal, because these were some big recruits for these programs, and all of a sudden, they're just going away like that, and it's hard to replace guys like that. So do you not think that's an issue for college basketball?
No, I don't think it's an issue because just as much as they're losing players, they're going to get players back. We see this all the time with UNT. We had Aaron Scott, we had Reuben Jones, we had a bunch of other players like, CJ Noland, another guy that left in the transfer portal, but then we got guys like Brennan Lorient, Atten Wright, Rondell Walker, guys joining our team that were coming from the transfer portal. So it's a cycle. It's not like teams are just only losing players. They're getting guys back. We're seeing fresh faces in the lineup. It's keeping the sport interesting and fun, and we're getting these cool team-ups of different types of players and coaches after they leave the portal. Like we saw the reunitation of Dusty May with his former players at Michigan when they were at FAU together. And I think it's exciting, and it's giving a lot, these college basketball fans a chance to see many players play for their team, and they're not just going to suck forever because they're going to get a bunch of transfers.
Jai, what are your thoughts?
I don't really feel like the transfer portal really hurts like the high major programs a lot, because look at a school like Duke, for instance. Half of those players are going to be one and done anyways. Half of the players on Auburn is going to be one and done. I feel like it more affects like the FCS programs and stuff like that, but for the major programs, I don't really feel like the transfer portal really affects the school much.
And the other thing I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of people are complaining that there wasn't many mid-major teams winning games in March this year. Guys, this is a 1-year sample size. Just last year, we saw Yale 13 seed win. We saw Grand Canyon win. We saw a bunch of upsets last year, and just because it didn't happen this year doesn't mean that the entire world is crumbling down like Stephen A. Smith says it's happening. The sport is not being ruined, and in the Final Four this year, when the 4 best teams are playing and it's cinema on our television screen, we're not going to be complaining about it.
I think what a lot of people complain about with these mid-major programs is the fact that they're not able to build that same type of culture that you saw these past teams. Think about what John Calipari did at Memphis. That's a mid-major school. But would a recruit like Derrick Rose, if he didn't go to the NBA draft, would he stay out of Memphis for much longer if the transfer portal was still a thing back then? So, Jai, what are your thoughts? Do you think that a lot of these bigger names could impact the transfer portal for mid-major schools?
Yes, I definitely feel like it can impact a lot, because look at Tyler Perry, for example. Tyler Perry came to UNT fresh off a national championship at the JUCO level. He dominated here. He led them to the NIT championship, and then he went off to Kansas State and was able to, give himself a better chance of going to the league. So I definitely feel like it helps the mid-major teams and the high-major teams.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, because you just talked about it, how a great player might go to a lower level mid-major school and then transfer to a Power 4 school, but it also works the other way around. There are so many players that go to these Power 4 schools and they don't get the clock, they don't get the minutes, they don't get the opportunity, then they come down to a mid-major school and they ball out for the university, and they give the fans a show either way. So you might lose a great player, but you can get one back in the exact same fashion.
Guys, let's think about this from the NCAA's perspective. So many players have basically made this NCAA free agency. Long are the days where basically scholarships matter. Now it's just, if I don't like it here, I can leave. So, Jai, do you think from a corporate NCAA level, this will be an issue?
Yes, I feel like it will be an issue down the line just because it's some players that pretty much enter the portal every year. Those are kind of like the only players that I kind of have like a problem with, because it's like, okay, you enter the portal once or twice, that's cool. You didn't like your situation, but it's like every year you look up, you're in the transfer portal. I feel like that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, they've turned into college basketball journeymen, basically. Jai, how do you think that problem could be fixed?
I feel like it could be fixed by just limiting how many times you can transfer. I feel like if you transfer more than twice, I feel like it's not the coach's problem, it's not the team problem, it's on you at that point.
Yeah, there's a couple things I have to say about that. And yeah, of course, I think that's a great idea. I think a 2 transfer limit is mandatory. And honestly, when a player transfers 2 times, a lot of people get sick of seeing that guy transfer anyway. So I'm not sure that that's really going to fix a whole lot of things. But as far as the whole, my biggest problem is when you see a guy who's 26 years old playing college basketball, Chad Baker-Mazara from Auburn. I get tired of seeing that. I think there should be a limit to where you age out of eligibility, not just a 4-year thing, but maybe later on down the line they make something to where if you're older than, I don't know, let's say 24 years old, you kind of phase out of the process. This is indeed the last year of the COVID year, so the 5th-year seniors that have played 5 straight years of college basketball, we're not going to necessarily be seeing that anymore after this year, because that COVID year will finally expire. However, I think, in the future, I think the age of certain college basketball players and transfers is the main problem I see about it.
Parker, do you think that they should bring back eligibility requirements as we have the graphic up on the screen? Because a lot of big names always jump in the portal with no limitations. Do you think that's something the NCAA should consider bringing back?
Yeah, I think that is something that, could we see in the future, and I think it's just better for the sport. I think, when if you're an 18-year-old coming into college playing March Madness, there's no reason why you should be playing against a guy who's been in the NCAA for 6 years. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous in my opinion. And that's when you start to see some of these super teams being formed, because the experience, and they've seen so much more, they've played so much more basketball. But I mean, at the end of the day, we still will see a team like Duke every now and then come in with 2 star freshmen and just run the competition regardless.
Jack?
I feel like it affects a lot of things. I feel like it affects a lot of incoming freshmen. I feel like it affects a lot of JUCO guys and stuff like that, just not being able to get the opportunity because somebody had already been there for 6 years, so they kind of feel like they owe them that starting spot. So I just kind of feel like it definitely affects the younger guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the transfer portal has in store for the NCAA. Thank you so much for watching our show today. Make sure you tune in to Thursday, and make sure to tune back in Monday next week for another episode.